Hello, it's Bethany. I'm a lower elementary Montessori teacher, and today we're going to talk about geometry and the scope and sequence of it all. I'm making this video because in a few weeks I'm going to be giving a lower elementary Montessori scope and sequence talk online via Zoom on Saturday, July 27th, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. And what that means is I'm not only going to be talking about geometry, it will be a part of it, but what I'm going to be talking about is math, language, and cultural, and everything like that. And then there will also be a special guest speaker of someone who has been teaching Montessori a long time, and also a Q&A at the end. And the schedule will be at the website if you want to check it out and to sign up at the link below or at partsoflanguage.com. So let's get into geometry. Geometry is all around us, all around us. You can't go 2 steps without seeing geometry somewhere, right? So that's what we're trying to teach our students is have them notice and be aware of their surroundings and say, hey, I see a point, I see a plane, I see a solid all around us. I see that shape all around us, right? And we're just trying to make them aware that geometry is all around us, right? But how does that break up by the grades, right? We have a big task in Montessori teaching 3 grade levels, right? So let's see. We have the first graders, the second graders, and the third graders by level, right? Some people say you can teach all the concepts of geometry to every single grade level, every single year, and that's a fine way to do it. I like to break it up with the review, of course, through the different things. So for the first graders, we'll focus mostly on lines and shapes, right? Lines and shapes, because the geometry cabinet itself is very big, right? So, and we know if they went through the early childhood that they have seen this before, right? The shapes, the geometry cabinet that has the quadrilaterals, the polygons, the curved figures, the triangles, the circles, the rectangles, right? And also the lines. They're now introduced to the different types of lines in lower elementary. So that has different concepts too. Parts of the lines, positions of lines, right? And how I like to break it up for them is I introduce one and then there's a command card. Introduce a line, command card, right? I like to start with the shapes, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But then for the second graders, right, we have the lines and the shapes, a review for that. And not only is it a review, because the kids do forget when they come back, not all of them, right? They still remember some things like, hey, I remember doing that, but it's great to have them do it again, right? So then we add in the angles, right? To get them prepared. Because angles, 2 lines put together, right? So they see that, oh, it's building on top of something that I have previously learned in the first level, right? But we go through the whole review of those lines and shapes just to cement it in their brain, right? To get it in that they have that, right? So then the third graders, the lines, shapes, angles, and shout out to the third grader geometry work, parts of the circle. No, I do show it to everybody. Some, like at Pi Day, we'll all look at it. I don't present it. I like to keep it as a third grader work. Some works, I like to say, okay, this is a third grader work, right? If a student asks to see it, of course, like some students like to see the test tube division, and I show it to them, and then they say, no, thank you. And I'm like, okay, you don't have to do it, because I know they will see it again in third grade, and they will do it in third grade. So the parts of the circle is just like the little icing on the cake at the end for the third graders. But then, of course, we have the review for the third graders, right? They see the angles again, the lines, the shapes again. But then there's other concepts that the second and third graders need to see too. Perimeter, area, symmetry. The first graders can see these concepts too, right? Different things. Not only that, but there's a lot more to it, right? So how do we know what to teach and when to teach it? With a scope and sequence, right? And I have seen so many scope and sequences, and so many were just, there were some things on this one and some things on that one, and I just wanted one scope and sequence that could have anything and anything that I could want to teach, or that I could need to teach the students, or that they need to see. I looked at state standards, I looked at everything, so I could see, what is meant to be learned at this grade age level and grade level, right? So I created my own scope and sequence because I wanted one that would have everything. So a few years ago, when I started teaching, I got a bunch of different scope and sequences that were just given to me, and here you go with. And why were there a bunch? Because some were missing things and some weren't. So I just wanted one that would have everything. So, right, I wanted to see. So this is an example of my scope and sequence here, and how I made it. But how? So I know what I need to teach now. I just use the second graders as an example. I know what I need to teach now, and it's everything and anything, right? So some things, there might be things on here that maybe second graders wouldn't see, but maybe they will because we're following the child to see, right? So I created a weekly list of what they should be and when and where they should kind of be. So this weekly list, we start with the fundamental concepts, and I put command cards for the second graders, but for like the first years, it's like types of line, and then the next week type of line command card, so it gets cemented in it, and then the shapes, and then the rest of the lines, and going through it like that, right? But how do we know? And this isn't a complete list, right? So I didn't show you all things here, but then I thought, well, how can I take um, my list of weeks for the students to be able to see it clearly? So I ended up creating some maps. This is just an example of the first grader geometry map. There are 3 of them. Now let me see if I don't know if I could go back, but the this is the end of first grade, right? We're seeing the end of first grade. So this is just for the geometry concepts, right? So last year I made 4 different maps and 4 different or lists. There's maps or lists option, whatever you prefer. I like the maps because then I could put one page of a map with their work plan and they could see what's next. Or if you don't want the students to see them at all, you can have the map for yourself to keep track of it for them. So I made 4 different maps for all the grade levels. So there's a numeration map so they can get all of the Montessori materials for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. But then the next one is time, money, measurement. And then the next map is geometry. And then the next is word problems, crafts, and extra concepts. So anything they can see in math. But then I tried it with the 4 different maps, and this might work for upper elementary, but for the especially the first graders, the second and third graders were okay with it having 4 different maps. But then I created one map with one for each grade level. So one math map that goes. So the first, it goes in like in 4s. So I'll show you on this next one. A numeration work, a time, money management work, a geometry work, a word problem graph, extra concepts work. And then it goes back to numeration, time, money management. And you might be asking, well, how does that follow the child, right? So here's how I see it. Okay. This is my work plan, and it's the best one I have created. You can watch my video where I go through all my other work plans. It is a lot. I tried so many different ones throughout the years, and this is my favorite because it's blank and the students can write on it, or I can write on it for them after they complete the work. Then we write it on it, and it's their goal to finish their daily work at the top, and then a math, language, and cultural every day. And that might seem like a lot, but some of these things are like the daily work should only take 5 to 10 minutes, and then I know they're getting everything they're getting in the day, the most out of the day they can. So let's say the student finished the first 2 circles of the math on their map and want to see the next and are ready for the next one, but maybe they don't want the presentation right away. So they say, well, I want to do the 9 chain. That is what I want to do today. Even if they've seen it, even if they've done it in early childhood a bunch, even if they've done it a bunch last year, usually in elementary, they see the chains and go, ugh. But some kids like the chains. So they want to do the 9 chain that day. That counts as a math work for them, right? But this also keeps them on track. Like, hey, if it's November and you're still on map let's say 5, I think I have 12 second grade maps, right? Or 13. It's 12 or 13. And they're on 5. Like, are we getting there? Are we picking? Are we making good choices? Are we focusing on our work, right? So that's why it also helps guide them to see what's next and what concepts are next, correct? Right? Yeah. So, but this also allows them to, or allows them to be themselves so I can follow them and what they want to do while also keeping them accountable to say, hey, this is what we're going to learn next. And we do that anyways when we present. We could say, oh, well, this week I'm going to present this, right? But this also is so individualized because everybody could be at a different spot on the map anyways. So if you liked this little breakdown of geometry, you could always come to the scope and sequence talk where I talk about the whole math map. I talk about the whole language, scope and sequence, the whole math, and some how I plan out the cultural year. I don't have cultural maps, but if you're interested in the scope and sequence or the maps are not up yet, but they're going to be soon. But you can click the link below to see the scope and sequence or wait a few weeks for the maps to come up as well. Um, and then you could sign up for my free hub to get that work plan. And if you're on the free hub, I'll add you to my email list. And that way you'll be up to date when the maps come out, when everything is updated and ready to go for everybody but my own little class to see, right? So I want to try to help as many Montessorians as I can through this. So I'm hoping that you enjoyed this and that you'll come see the live talk and have a happy school year. Thank you.